On the podium, Jun-sil, about to become president, was passionately delivering his vision for peaceful Korean unification. But the next second, a gunshot shattered all those beautiful dreams. Jun-sil collapsed to the ground as blood stained the podium. What's bizarre is that the assassin immediately committed suicide by poison on the spot, and all leads seemed to die with him. But Moon-Ju, as a former diplomat, keenly sensed that this assassination was anything but simple and began investigating secretly. She discovered that the last person the assassin met before the attack was actually her husband's own brother Jun- and a prosecutor. This discovery hit Moon-Ju like a ton of bricks. She went to ask her husband's secretary and learned that her husband had frequently mentioned someone with a codename Squirrel before his death. Back home, flipping through old photos, she found her answer Jun-san had been bitten by a squirrel as a child, leaving a scar on his face, so Jun-sil gave his brother this nickname. Her husband's frequent mentions of squirrel before the assassination were definitely no coincidence. Moon-Ju confronted Jun- directly, faced with her accusations. Jun-san's reaction was unexpected. Instead of denying it, he admitted to following his brother, but his reasoning was even more shocking. As a special investigation prosecutor, he suspected his brother Jun-sil of treason. However, Jun-san claimed he had formed a secret investigation team that was officially investigating but actually destroying evidence to protect his brother. Jun-san revealed crucial information. The man who controlled the scene at the church that day was named Beeks and Ho, codename Mark, a member of Valkyria, America's top mercenary organization. This group only cares about money, not people they can kill or protect any target. But Moon-Ju refused to believe her husband was a spy and returned to the church seeking answers. When knocking got no response, Moon-Ju pushed open the door to find chaos inside and the priest lying in a pool of blood. Suddenly, someone covered her mouth. It was Mark. He confirmed the priest was dead, but the ransacked room showed the killer was obviously searching for something. Just then, the killer appeared, seeing the pen in the killer's hand. Mark confirmed this was indeed the murderer and immediately engaged in intense combat. Using his superior skills, he subdued the attacker and was about to question him about his purpose when knocking came from behind, and the killer took advantage of the chaos to escape. Mark led Moon-Ju out to the church's secret chamber. This underground hideout, built during the Japanese occupation, absolutely amazed Moon-Ju. Mark explained that this church had a codename, the Catacombs, and both he and the priest were members. Finally, Moon-Ju asked the burning question: was Mark really a Valkyria mercenary? Mark revealed that his contract with Valkyria had ended last year. Furthermore, Mark had found in the priest's Bible an identical business card to the one the killer had, and the priest had been poisoned, the killing method far beyond ordinary assassins. More importantly, the priest had mentioned that he planned to deliver important information left by Congressman Jun-sil during the next day's mass. At this moment, Moon-Ju also remembered that her husband had indeed said he had something important to tell her when he returned from the church. At that moment, Mark retrieved the pen-shaped container from a wine bottle, with a secret letter hidden inside. The instant Moon-Ju opened the letter, the truth hit like a thunderbolt from clear skies. Inside was a satellite image of a submarine with coordinates pointing to a shipyard near Jeju Island. This letter came from Miller, a Korean-American Assistant Secretary of State, and its contents to Jun-sil were absolutely shocking. According to intelligence, North Korea was building a 10-ton nuclear submarine equipped with 16 state of the art vertical launch tubes capable of carrying 128 nuclear warheads. If the analysis was correct, North Korea's nuclear threat had become reality. Upon receiving this intelligence, the Pentagon immediately convened an emergency meeting and decided to use low-yield tactical nuclear weapons for precision strikes against the peninsula's nuclear facilities and missile silos. However, both Miller and his close friend Jun-sil advocated for peace and absolutely refused to see all-out war break out. Miller voiced his opposition during the meeting, pointing out that preemptive strikes could trigger full-scale war. But the Secretary of State arrogantly declared that this war would be over in just 5 minutes. Miller was banned from subsequent meetings because of his dissent. Due to Miller's position, the CIA began secretly monitoring him, realizing he was under surveillance. Miller wrote down everything in a secret letter, concealed it in a pen, and had it secretly delivered to Korea through a friend. After receiving this letter, Jun-sil immediately changed his hardline stance and began advocating for peaceful unification instead. Armed with the truth, Moon-Ju used her former ambassador status to request a meeting with President Park. She hoped President Park could understand the real reason behind Jun-sil's murder and America's war plan. But President Park's reaction was unexpected. She said meaningfully that she didn't know why Jun-sil hadn't burned the letter. If he had, perhaps the priest wouldn't have died, and Moon-Ju wouldn't have gotten dragged into this mess. As soon as she finished speaking, President Park actually burned the secret letter right in front of Moon-Ju. Then President Park revealed another truth when Moon-Ju was serving as ambassador at the UN. President Park had already wanted to replace her. It wasn't that Moon-Ju had voluntarily returned home for her husband's career. Most crushing of all, President Park stated that once the real mastermind behind Jun-sil's murder was exposed, it could very likely trigger a war. So Jun-sil could only die in vain. vain, and Moon-Ju had to leave politics. At the Seoul Air Show, watching President Park's red-carpet display of power, Moon-Ju felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. It was exactly this helplessness that hardened her resolve. She craved power, not for power's sake, but to change this state of powerlessness. Back home, she found her mother Law backing to move out. Moon-Ju seized this opportunity to ask why she had initially opposed her marriage to Jun-Il. Her mother Law's answer revealed her political wisdom. Although Moon-Ju came from a single parent family and was raised by her mother working odd jobs. During her opposition period, the mother Law had conducted an in-depth investigation into her background. After seeing Moon-Ju rise to fame in a UN simulation speech, her mother Law recognized her potential. Moon-Ju possessed both the professional competence of a diplomat and the resilient character of a commoner, exactly what her son, Jun-Il lacked. 3 generations of her family's investment had been aimed at grooming Jun-Il to become a rising political star, but now she believed Moon-Ju was the most suitable presidential candidate. Since they'd gotten this far in the conversation, Moon-Ju didn't hold back. She needed financial backers, media resources, and all the necessary conditions for campaigning. Her mother Law revealed that years ago, during her background investigation of Moon-Ju, she had discovered that one of Moon-Ju's aspirations at the time was to become president, and so Moon-Ju embarked on the path to the presidency, while Jun-Il's death became the tragic collision between peaceful ideals and great power interests, and also became Moon-Ju's means of winning votes.